Good morning. First, I'd like to thank everybody here for allowing me the opportunity to come here and address you on, Buxton FUDs, property. And for the outstations, I appreciate your participation as well. First and foremost, I did want to say that myself and the team will be heading down to Buxton directly after this meeting. So look forward to seeing you down there on the beach and, talking a little bit further. I know you're primarily interested in, the finding results for the overall soil samples that we took when we removed the pipe. Those results are not finalized yet, but what I can do is tell you that some of the preliminary data from the soil sampling did detect petroleum above the state's screening levels in the areas where we took out the pipe. All right, so I wanted to be transparent even before it was released to come here and brief you on that. So what does that mean? We're still receiving, input and comments, from our environmental munitions center of expertise. Also, our agency stakeholders as well. So sharing that information with them is also important. Number two, we did some geophysical work, so ground penetrating radar for the area there at Buxton Beach. And the data that has come back so far is that there aren't any underground storage tanks that we are able to locate. Now, all this really confirms that, comprehensive sampling of the project area is the next correct step. So we are not done there. And that's the main point that I wanted to say with those first two, comments here before the board. So just a basic recap of, the things that have occurred since May. I don't want to go all the way back to 1982 and 86. I know that you have a full agenda here. So what I'd really like to talk about is starting out in May, just not too long ago. As you know, we removed the pipe and sampled around the surrounding areas. Those samples were sent to the overall lab. We removed a 70 to 80 foot pipe. It was not connected to an overall storage tank, and soil sampling was subcontracted out at that time. Although the pipe that was thought to be the possible source when it was removed, our FUDs team has not been able to identify the source of petroleum significant enough to cause the volume of saturated organic material that has previously washed up on the overall shore, which further reinforces the need for more comprehensive testing. Also, in May, the Environmental and Munitions Center of Expertise, that's our internal, that center resides with Huntsville. They did an independent test of all the documents associated with the overall project over the years. They determined that all the processes and protocols were followed, but they did give us some recommendations. One, to conduct more sampling in the project area to help fill in the blanks of the past investigations. And like I said up front, we're going to go beyond further than that overall recommendation by sampling and performing a comprehensive testing over the entire project area, not just certain areas. Additionally, that Tiger team or independent review team asked us to do some ground penetrating radar or geophysical work. So we have done that, and that was accomplished in late June timeframe. That report is still currently underway and under internal review. The recommendations also resulted in the approval of funding to move forward to actually contract out that comprehensive testing. Currently, it looks like that overall contract award is going to be awarded in October timeframe. Again, I acknowledge that this is a lengthy process, and each step in this process is required by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Quality Management Regulations. During the entire process, we've sent out news releases, made social media posts with updates as details have become available. We'll continue to do this. We want you to know that we're diligently working towards determining what actions need to be taken to resolve this overall situation. I've met with agency representatives as well as some from the community who live and work here, and I understand the frustrations and the process that we're going through. But I will tell you that there is a way ahead. We do have comprehensive testing that will go underway and will be contracted out in October. All right, so I gave you a little bit of the way ahead. I'm just going to talk a little bit more about some of the future actions. Excuse me. One of the things that I wanted to hit on is we're in the process of awarding a contract for a restoration advisory board. The first meeting will be held in October, late October to early November. And during that time frame, it'll initially be a first public meeting, and we're going to provide an in-depth analysis and requirements there to establish an overall RAB. A support contractor that will be contracted out will help the district team to ascertain the level of interest, from the community and what type of commitment is required for that establishment. It requires an overall long-term commitment on part of the board members who wish to be part of that RAB, including public participants, and we want to make sure that it's the right direction that the community wants to take. The RAB board members will represent the public and are provided access to the environmental restoration process, giving the members of the opportunity to review progress, participate in dialogue, and provide comments and preventive advice to the district's decision makers concerning the overall cleanup. Public meetings provide access for all the community members, giving the community as a whole and the opportunity to attend quarterly public meetings to discuss environmental restoration process. So it's either we can do one or the other, is bottom line what we're saying. And when we have that first public meeting, we'll lay out the overall process and timeline associated with it. If it's not a RAB that the community desires, we would still be open up for quarterly, public meetings. All right, so our team is still reviewing the performance work statement to award the overall comprehensive, sampling there. So determining the overall scope of work is going to be very important before we just go out and start digging holes. Just remember, it is going to be over the entire project area, so we're going to use a little bit more deliberateness in our approach. We'll continue to meet with North Carolina Department of Equality to establish the agreed upon standards of comparisons for all data now and into the future. And currently, we're still working with our interagency partners, the National Park Service, Coast Guard, and other stakeholder agencies for coordinations and to move forward. Getting back to the overall soil sampling report from the pipe removal in May, it's in its final step. steps of review. We will get that over to the National Park Service for comment, and then once they have viewed that, we will be releasing that to the public. And then for the geophysical report or the ground penetrating on the radar, it's going to go through the same process there, and we'll make sure that it's deliberate. There will be an independent technical review team looking at that before it is released. All right. Just want to make sure I haven't missed anything for the board. All right. Yeah, that covers it. I wanted to talk about the soil sampling and the initial results that we received back from the pipe removal back in May. I wanted to talk about the geophysical aspect of the overall project site, but I also wanted to talk about future RAB opportunity, for the community. And lastly, that we will be moving forward with a comprehensive testing for the entire project site. We remain committed to transparency in our communication, and we'll continue to keep the community updated, either through news releases, social media posts, agency stakeholder meetings, as well as any type of in-person meetings that we have the opportunity to attend. This is still my priority. I was sitting and talking to, the commissioner earlier, and, I said that there are 46 FUD sites that we actually manage over 6 states. And Buxton is the one that has received my full and undivided attention. So that's a reinforcing, fire there that, this is a priority, and it is for my team as well. So with that, gentlemen, ladies, I can take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Colonel. I'll yield to the board, see if they have any questions. Commissioner Ross?
I do. Colonel, thank you so much for being here today. It means a great deal to us. I'm sure I speak for everyone that you're here addressing the assembled folks here in the room, our board in person, as you have done. And I was at the meeting we held in the Southern Beaches back in May as well. So
Yes,
again, thank you for that. And very special thank you that you and the team will be going directly to Buxton after this meeting in person, because what we heard from public comment was rather disturbing, I thought, with regard to the petroleum odor and so forth that the winds have kicked up there. I did have a couple of questions. The soil samples, I have my notes that I took from May the 14th regarding the sampling. You said they are not final. Do we know how many more, can you estimate how many more weeks or months to determine the results of the soil samples taken 4 months ago?
From the pipe, sir?
Beg pardon?
From the pipe, sir? From
Yes.
The pipe.
The one, you said it indicated a higher level of,
Yes, sir.
I think you indicated petroleum compounds or organic compounds, and I was wondering if there is an estimate of when the official report will be published with the findings. Do we know? And
So,
I ask
yes.
only because of the general frustration of, have you ever watched the news lately? We can't comment. It's under investigation. Everybody goes nuts. And I'm just hoping we can give some definitive, it'll be by the end of September, by October, by Christmas, by, I don't know.
I agree with the sentiment. That's why I came up here, and, I wanted to give you some data even before the finalization, of the report itself.
Yes.
Like I said, we need to give that to the National Park Service, for their overall comment. It'll go through our, quality assurance, team at the district before it's released.
That's it. It's the CX review and FES review, sir.
And so what are we looking at? Are we looking at a daytime group?
Colonel, we're going to have to hold the gentleman with the tie hostage until that report is released.
Believe me, I know I'm being recorded here, but, you know, I hold them hostage all the time up at my district
So,
headquarters.
and again, I'm not going to pin you down, but what it sounds like is months yet before we see a final report.
It's a true statement.
True statement. Okay. So everybody in Buxton, it will likely be more months before the first samples are taken. And you indicated a comprehensive set of samples will be
Comprehensive,
taken.
Yes.
That would indicate, if a similar timeline, sometime late next spring to get those results back. I'm baking in 6 to 8 months. Okay. Number two, it has been,
Hold on, Commissioner Ross.
Yes, sir.
While you're on that topic,
Yes,
if you
sir.
don't mind. Am I right in understanding that there's two agencies that have to make this review? Is that correct? Park Service and who else?
The DEQ, right?
Center of Expertise.
Environmental expertise, Environmental Center of
So
Expertise.
two agencies. And am I under the impression that the Park Service has already responded?
no, they don't have the report.
They have not yet.
They have not got the report?
They have not received the report yet, sir.
All right, okay. Why? I mean, 4 months ago? And they haven't seen the review as well as, I mean, this doesn't make sense.
Right.
That's the frustration that our citizens are feeling, is the fact that it's been 4 months and the folks that's supposed to review this haven't even got the report.
Sir, this report is generated by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and they have the opportunity to respond and provide comment once it is complete. And it is not complete and ready for their comment yet, sir.
That's the part that is so frustrating with the federal government. And it's Colonel, I'm not pointing fingers at you. This is unacceptable. It is totally unacceptable. And this country has got to do something to eliminate all of this red tape. And is there not a sense of urgency from those who are employed with the federal government to act responsibly?
Sir, there's a huge level of responsibility and sense of urgency associated with this project, sir.
Well, we're having a hard time convincing our citizens of that, I'll be honest with you. I'm sorry to interrupt, Commissioner Ross, but I had to interject that.
Yeah, that's why I indicated the metaphor of, you know, we can't comment because it's under investigation, and then it goes on for an endless period of time. Again, if you've watched any issue on the national news, that's usually an official response from the agency, and it just leaves those of us involved feeling kind of empty, you know. And again, I'm not trying to be critical, Colonel. I'm just expressing the chairman's disappointment, frustration. It was reported with some level of astonishment back in May, and I'm hoping we can correct this if it's incorrect, that the Army Corps spent $500,000 to have a contractor remove a 70-foot piece of pipe. Everyone in the real world said, that's absurd. No one would pay $500,000. And it has been repeated and repeated. I'm hoping that that was simply a misstatement. And I'm looking again at our representative here. Could you confirm or deny that it's $500,000 to remove a piece of pipe?
It was.
It
was, sir. Yes, sir.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I was told that the $500,000 was the contract that was awarded.
So there's a lot of
That
things.
wasn't the actual cost.
Sure, there's a lot of things that go into that
$500,000.
$500,000. One, all the workup to get the contract ready to go is going to cost a portion of that for the Corps employees, right? To put the contract out on the street, to remove those pipes, to actually do the contracting, also to do the overall report and for that contract is all within that $500,000. It wasn't just $500,000 to you, sir, to remove a pipe and be on your way. There's a lot more that goes into that.
Right. I'm looking at county attorney because I know we do similar work when we put RFQs out and receive contracts and so forth. I was disbelieving that we would spend $500,000 to just move that 70-foot piece of pipe. Number 3, we've talked a great deal about the soil samples in the area and the potential toxicity of the petroleum distillates that are remaining or not remaining in the source of said distillates and petroleum remnants. But we continue to skirt around. What about the big chunks of concrete, debris, rebar? The last explanation was FUDs jurisdiction does not include the removal of debris. And between the Navy, the DOD, the National Park Service, the Corps, the Coast Guard, and the New Jersey Turnpike System, nobody stepped up to remove the concrete. And I'm just wondering if it remains in this ping pong ball, no one's going to touch the concrete until a whole gang of citizens in the county with large equipment just marches down there and starts removing it ourselves.
Sir, nothing has changed with the overall FUDs authority.
Right. So, okay.
And so
So it's going to stay there. Even if we find complete clarity or lack of contaminants, God willing, all of the debris and other concrete and so forth will remain there for posterity. Nobody is going to touch that.
Sir, is it contaminated?
No, it's just concrete. So it will stay until the Park Service or the county were to remove it, basically. And again, I'm not trying to be snarky. I honestly believe it will remain until either the Park Service funds the removal or the county funds the removal. I don't anticipate any change in the remit or jurisdiction of the FUDs authority for remediation and cleanup. I think that's a fair assessment. Would you agree, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There's no change to the FUDs authority, sir.
I'm going to go out on a limb and predict that when you convene in early November the interest for a rehabilitation advisory board in the local community, it will come back with a resounding yes, please. Okay? I'm just going to stick my neck out. And Danny, you're the local guy. Would you agree? Okay. I would even speculate we could probably accelerate this with the assumption that you've got a tremendous amount of community interest. Last thing, and Mr. Chairman, this is to your point. I was recently able to have lunch with United States Senator Ted Budd from North Carolina. And in the course of that discussion, we discussed a number of things on a national and, frankly, international scale. And he said, is there anything that you guys have that is of a local interest that we might be able to help? I said, Senator, I have one thing. Please, who has enough, I'll just say it, juice, to say, clean up the mess in Buxton? Don't build us new buildings. Don't give us massive grants worth millions of dollars. Please clean up the mess that the Navy left there, that these citizens are living with day in and day out. Who can do this? Is it a bill in Congress? Is it a phone call to the Secretary of Defense? Is it a personal visit with the Vice President, the Chief of Staff? I don't know. But I literally was begging him for anything he could do, or his office, that can break through this apparent, and again, sir, I'm not attacking, I'm saying the frustration of the endless review, months, study, we don't know, we'll form a committee, we'll test, it'll be another 6 to 8 months. FUDs will not touch the non-contaminated remnants of structures and rebar. it just leaves us feeling very, very frustrated and disappointed. And so that was my last-ditch effort to reach out to our senator in the hopes that he or the Senate could initiate enough action or pressure within the departments with budgets that make our county look like pocket change at best. The amounts of money, $500,000 for a pipe. I mean, the kind of money. Anyway, I reached out to him, and they promised that they would listen. County manager, I know you spoke to his, I think, chief of staff on that and relayed information.
We had lunch, Bobby and I had lunch with him.
Yeah, okay.
And we talked as well.
Yes, sir.
Had conversations with Senator Tillis's office in the same vein.
And Senator Tillis, okay. I don't know who else. Let's go get the governor, the state legislature, the state senate, the National Guard, and I'm going to call the New Jersey Turnpike System because they're going to get involved in this too. It's just, I don't know where to go, sir. It just is so hard on us. Anyway, thanks. Yes.
Since you brought it up, if it's okay, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
absolutely. Go ahead, Bob.
The Coastal Resources Commission met last week, and I was at the meeting, and I briefed the Coastal Resources Advisory Council as well as the commission on this subject and sought their input, their efforts to try to help as well. At that meeting, the Deputy Secretary of DEQ, Bill Crane, was there and heard the briefing as well, and I saw him after the meeting. So you mentioned let the state authority. We're trying to get the state moving in the same way that we're trying to get the congressional delegation moving to do things, to give them authorities, to give them money, to do whatever's got to be done to get something done there quickly. So we're working on that.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Anyone else? Yes, sir, Commissioner Couch.
Colonel, thanks again for being here. Can I get some, thank you. Couple of points of clarification. If I hear correctly, the pipe extrication did not reveal, it was attached to a UST.
That is correct, sir.
Okay. Ground penetrating radar, what level of comprehensiveness are we going to see? Because if I'm hearing initially that there's no underground storage tanks, you know, I can't fathom that a source would be the organic material alone. Yeah, that stuff can suck up a lot of benzene and byproducts and stuff, but I gotta hope that the GPR work that y'all do will be comprehensive and will definitively answer whether or not there are underground storage tanks still down there. I remember the place as a kid, and they had their own community in there. It was very, I mean, it was self-contained. It was quite an operation down there. But I would love to, and I think the populace needs to know the extent definitively if there are or are not USTs in the ground. Because they're going to be immersed in salt water. That's not a freshwater lens in that area there. It's, if those are steel tanks, which is what they were using, they didn't have fiberglass coated tanks back then, then if there's anything left in there, then that's trouble.
Understood, sir. A lot of their information is still being mapped. Yes, we did go out late June, from the 24th to the 28th. Initial indications, you know, don't show that there are any left, but we're continuing to finalize and refine our data just to make sure that there is none underneath there. But there is a lot of, you know, pipes, remnant infrastructure there.
When's this geophysical work going to take place? Is that something that starts, you know, effective immediately, or?
The geophysical testing has already taken place in June.
Okay, so the GPR work has been done.
It's not complete yet, but a lot of the GPR work has been completed, yes.
Okay. What's the opportunity, what's the chance of getting documents relative to that? Have they been made public? Is there a report on what was revealed? Is that something that's?
It will be made public
Okay.
once it goes through the overall process of our independent review.
Okay. That's what I got.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bateman.
Yes, sir. What's the circumference circumference of what you're going to be studying? What the land mass is? How much is it?
For the overall project area,
Overall project area?
sir, I'm tracking that it is 0.3 miles wide, and it's going as deep as back as the dune, even a little bit further. Is that correct? Past the dune. I don't have the dimensions on it. Once we, let me see here. It kind of looks like a T, if you will. 0.3 miles across on the beachfront. And the overall test area will go back about halfway past the pond. And you'll see the overall road. I believe that's Lighthouse Road that goes into the overall.
The reason I was asking, folks from the Civic Association said that there were some pipes underneath a road. I think he alluded to earlier. Maybe there might be a storage tank or something because the property was vast. Maybe they had tanks off the area.
Okay.
The other thing, I just would hope that when you do the advisory board that we had representation from the Park Service, everybody that has a say-so on that advisory board. And who appoints that advisory board?
We do.
Huh?
We do.
You do?
Yes.
Make sure we have great representation from everybody. That man there needs to be on it. Dave Hallett needs to be on it. Of course, you need to be on it. I would suggest you had somebody from the Board of Commissioners on there, community leaders. As the chairman said, this is a very, very important event for everybody down there. It affects their lives. It's been affecting their lives for a long, long time. And they feel, as well as this board feels, like that we're the stepchild and nothing's been done in the past. I like your attitude of saying, hey, you're number one on our list. We're looking at it. That makes me feel good that we're getting attention. But the long range that we're putting out there 8 months to 10 months before we get any kind of answers on anything, before we even decide we're going to do work on and where we're going to do work at, that's kind of downlifting. But I appreciate your comments.
Understood, sir. Thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner House?
Colonel, first off, I want to thank you for your service, and I want to thank you for being here as well. I'm not only on the Board of Commissioners here, I'm also chairman of the Oregon Task Force, and I deal with the Army Corps of Engineers pretty much on a daily basis for the dredging programs that we have from Miss Katie. The most frustrating part about all of it is the bureaucracy, is that one particular part or committee, like your environmental committee, has to review it, and they have X number of days to review it. Then it gets sent to another agency. They've got X number of days to review it. Then it gets sent to another agency, and they get X number of days to review it. Now, one of the things that's frustrating is, why can't all these agencies get the same paperwork and come to a consensus, and that would cut out 4 or 5 months out of the process? And I'm sure with the weight of your office, you could probably get that done. Is there any way to cut the bureaucracy so it will cut the timeline to get these projects done?
Sir, what I believe you're asking about are, our environmental, our regulatory department. Is that correct?
That's one of the agencies, yes.
Okay. I know specifically within the Savannah district, we've actually been doing pretty well with our regulatory, permitting. Bureaucracy and the level of checks is always going to be there, sir, but a way to streamline that process to increase communication right up front so it doesn't take as long is something that we have been, looking at. We do have, partners that we work with directly to streamline some of those permits. So, yes.
So what I'm using that as a reference. What I'm
Understood,
saying
sir.
is, can we streamline this process to get the Buxton site cleaned up? How can we go about getting that done? And like I said, I believe with the weight of your office, you can probably streamline that a whole lot quicker.
All right, sir. I'll look into it.
Thank you. That's good.
Anyone else?
Uh,
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Danny.
Go ahead, Dee.
I just have, thank you for your service and for being here and giving us an explanation this morning. I want to go back to that pipe that was removed, the 70 to 80-foot pipe for the $500,000. Has that money been paid already out? I mean, because we don't have the results, final results, so.
Is it, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Sarah Kiesler. So the contractor has not been paid yet because we have not gotten a final report.
So it won't be paid until you get the final report?
That is correct.
All right. And after listening to Danny and everybody else, other pipes that are there, is there a plan to remove those to see if there are any other tanks attached?
Initially, the geophysical work has not shown that there's any tanks there, but the comprehensive sampling that we plan on performing in awarding in October, if we see that there's other pipes that need to be removed, we'd also do that. But that would be future work down the road.
And so we're looking at many, many more months.
Yeah, we have to have a complete understanding of what the site looks like and where the contamination is, so we can make, instead of just removing one pipe and then removing another, this will be a comprehensive sampling, so we can understand the entire site.
Okay. And as you've heard from all the commissioners, it's a great area of concern. The timeline is a concern. Working together is a concern. We've done everything we can do, talk to everybody we can talk to. Do you have suggestions of other ways? Anybody else, anything else we can do to speed this process up? I mean,
First and foremost, I'd like to say that we are on a good trajectory to get this cleaned up. The time is the concern. It's a concern for us too. We want it to go as fast as we can with being deliberate as we can, working with our stakeholders. So like I said to Mr. House, yes, we will look at, ways that we can streamline, but at the end of the day, we still have to follow the process because we want this to be correct.
okay. Thank you.
Challenge, Commissioner?
Sir, if you would, redouble your efforts. We're counting on you. You've got a very capable team. You've got very capable partners in the Coast Guard and also in the Park Service. The demolition, digging up concrete and getting stuff, we can get just about anybody on a tractor and go out there and pull that stuff out. But this stuff that is or is not in the ground, that's a huge concern. So with your capabilities, as you kind of being the figurehead and being the face on this for the United States Army Corps, sir, just redouble your efforts, keep us opposed. We want to work with you. We've got the capability here of making this a success story, but we have to push. Thank you.
Understood, sir. Thank you for your time.
Vice Chairman?
Colonel Sturgeon, thanks again for being here today. We really appreciate your time and the effort you made to get down or up here from Savannah. Thank you very much. And appreciate the time that you're going to spend in Buxton. A lot has been mentioned about the $500,000 for the total budget to get that pipe, that 80-foot pipe, out of the ground. My question is, will there be a budget that is available for folks to look at to see the total? I understand, or I think I understood from what you said earlier, that encompassed the whole project, from studying that to see what was necessary to get it done, the whole 9 yards.
Sampling, yes.
And all the way through getting it done, getting rid of it. But will there be a budget available for folks to see that shows that total budget for that project and what was encompassed in it?
I don't know. We're gonna have to go through we're gonna have to ask. I don't know the answer to that.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
but who do you have to ask? I mean, we've got a colonel sitting here from the Corps side of it. I mean, you don't get but one step beyond that, right?
Well, sir, this is true, but it's gonna have to go through Office of Counsel. I don't know the process of releasing that information off the top of my
So
head.
it's not public information?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying I don't know.
Can we take that down and get back with you?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay, board, anyone else? Well, then, once again, Colonel, you reached out to me and asked to be here, and that I commend you for that, not doing this over the phone, and your willingness to be here and be as transparent as you possibly can, and I can't thank you enough for doing that. Once again, I appreciate your service to our country. I appreciate the job that you have, and I'm encouraged to hear that of the 40-some FUD sites, that this is your top priority. I quite honestly do not envy you with your task. I know you're genuine. I know you're working extremely hard. But this bureaucracy is totally unacceptable in this country, and God help you working through it. I mean, look what we experienced trying to replace the Bonner Bridge. You had an environmental assessment done for Dare County, environmental assessment done with Fish and Wildlife, environmental assessment done with Parks and Service, environmental assessment done with DEQ. And the list goes on and on and on and on. And as Commissioner House said, this bureaucracy is totally unacceptable. And I'm just thankful I'm not in your position to have to work through it, because it's unacceptable for a year now, when this first started, that we are nowhere further than the fact that we haven't gotten the data yet, but we're nowhere further from the fact that we removed a 70 to 80-foot pipe. That's where we are, a year. I mean, folks, you know, God bless our residents on Hatteras Island. I mean, this is, you know, I don't know what, I understand their frustration, you know. I wish that there was something stronger that this board could do for our citizens of Hatteras. We've been, I mean, the very day you did the testing, the county manager, myself, and Vice Chairman, we were in D.C. talking to our legislators, trying to get them to help us to get something done. We've had multiple conversations with them. Commissioner Ross has met with Bud. I mean, county manager and I just had lunch last week or week before last, once again, to continue. Representative Murphy's been down here. We've reached out to Senator Hainig, our representative in the House. They're doing everything they can from a state point of view to try to push this. And I'm preaching to the choir. I'm not preaching at you and giving you a hard time, but somehow you have got to express that same frustration that our board has and our representatives have of why this is taking so long. It is, I cannot say it enough. It is totally unacceptable. And with that being said,
Mr. Chairman,
thank you for going down this afternoon after this meeting and taking a look at the site. Hopefully that will, after looking at that and seeing what's happening, you can talk to your higher ups and say, guys, this is critical. We need to move faster. So thank you again for that.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, and you guys don't need to answer this. Maybe on your drive down to Buxton, you might amongst yourselves. If this identical situation with the fact case being identical and it occurred on a beach in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, would the citizens be hearing the same answers would you all face the same burden of bureaucracy and delay? Or would someone say, enough, this needs to be fixed now, fix it? Again, no need to respond. I just honestly believe it would be a very different situation if this contamination and debris was on a beach in Rehoboth rather than Buxton, North Carolina.
Well, also look at the bridge in Baltimore. Look how fast the Army Corps of Engineers
Right.
worked on that.
Immediately. yes.
And
Completely different.
different, but same organization.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Colonel, but I'm beyond frustrated.
I have frustrations too. I'm just not communicating them to you or the public. So,
I
thank
get
you.
it. I get it. But I think you can understand where we're all coming from. And again, thank you for coming, and I do thank you for your service as well. Thank you.